Thanks for everyone for joining. So I'm Liz Paddock from KGM. I work primarily on our brewer, see that clicker? Thank you. Our brewer innovation pipeline. I've been working closely with it since I joined about a year ago. So we're excited to, this is Lee Benakiva. We're excited to share what we've done together today. Okay, so as I mentioned, when I joined Keurig about a year ago, we were gearing up for some pretty significant portfolio changes. So we hadn't really innovated in a long time on the brewer side, and we were really thinking about how to solve consumer needs in a new and innovating way. So we had all of these objectives that we really wanted to address, but we knew that we didn't really have time or money and all the other reasons to really do them kind of in sequential order. We really wanted to figure out a way to integrate a bunch of solutions in order to address them together. So really we were looking for, answers on consumer appeal, long-term success potential of our innovations. We wanted to learn about volume, so how could we anticipate our sales projecting over time, especially under various support plans. So we have, brewer brand equity building to do on top of some new innovation planning. We were obviously also interested in source of volume, so we didn't want to just cannibalize our own sales. We really wanted to attract new users to the system and delight them. We were interested in price sensitivity. So pricing changes a lot over our development cycle, so we're really constantly thinking about how to really deliver the best value at the best price and the best experience to our consumers, but also please our retailer partners. Also incremental profitability, so we weren't always the most profitable in terms of our brewers, but we really wanted to drive innovation in a way that was going to benefit the business. And then finally, last but not least, this is sort of our holy grail at Keurig. We're really interested in growing household penetration. So the number of households that own a Keurig and use a Keurig, we want to be increasing that over time consistently. So we collaborated with Nielsen to integrate some of the classic solutions that many of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with, along with some exploratory work in order to achieve all of our objectives. So we started off with Basis concept testing, really to address that appeal and long-term success potential. Then we moved into some more complicated, I guess you could say, line and price optimizing. So looking at choice behavior in order to understand switching dynamics, pricing dynamics, incrementality, so to understand how our brewer line would evolve over time. We then, of course, built on our support plans and integrated into forecasting to really understand if we put effort behind certain brewers or certain groups of brewers, how would that work for us in terms of launching our sales even further. And then support optimization and household penetration is really where we brought in some of the more creative pieces here, where we utilized, of course, some of the techniques that Nielsen Basis can do in terms of evaluating different support plans, but we also switched the tables a little bit and asked for some optimization. And finally, household penetration, we were really able to look at providing additional data in order to establish a link between a new brewer purchase and an incremental household. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lee to talk about some of the details.
Okay, well, first of all, I just wanted to thank Liz, Sarah, the whole Keurig organization for partnering with us. Most of you are going to be familiar with some of the more traditional Basis solution. You're going to hear the word exploratory because we really did have, I think, a very thoughtful partnership on how to do some stuff that you probably aren't aware that we have done with some of our clients. So again, to Liz's point, we don't have one solution that could answer all of their questions. So we really came together and started to think about what is the foundational data that we need in order to answer those key business questions. And in particular, getting all the way kind of laddering up to that household penetration piece. So again, we used a combination of two of our more, I'd say, classic solutions, the first one being the Basis concept testing. This was pretty critical because we really needed to help them understand appeal for each one of the new brewers. understand long-term potential, what do consumers like, what do they not like, but really get that foundational data that we need for our forecasting model. And then the second piece was the line and price optimizer, which is a discrete choice methodology to get more at how do all these brewers interact with each other, as well as with all the other brewers and competitors in the landscape. And that we're able to use like real in-market sales data to calibrate, et cetera. So these two pieces were really the foundation for the data that we needed to collect to do these other exploratory analyses. So the first thing we were able to do was really look at different volume forecasts. So we were able to look at it with a bunch of different angles. The first one was looking at a franchise level. So on the left here on the top, you can see the first thing we looked at was what is the whole franchise gonna look like when these new brewers are launched? So we start today, we know what the volume is. When we layer those on, where are we gonna go? So that was really the first angle we looked at. The next one that we looked at was like year one, but now let's build it out over the next few years. So obviously year 2, year 3, et cetera. But I think one of the most critical ones that we looked at was by brewer. And the reason this was critical is because we wanted to understand, yes, here's the whole forecast, but which brewer is really gonna be driving that forecast, that volume? Potentially there were media plans that were gonna support this brewer. I know you probably can't read it, but like right here, that's like brewer number 4. But maybe that's not where the money should be spent. Maybe it should be spent somewhere else where we were seeing a bigger return on the investment. So that was a key deliverable to look at as well, to understand what is laddering up into that total forecast. Another thing is Keurig kind of flipped the table on us. And this is definitely one of our more kind of exploratory analysis is we typically work where our partners and our clients give us the media plan and we give them back, here's what your volume estimate is gonna be. In this case, where we partnered was Keurig said, hey, we're not gonna not just give you 1 or 2 media plans, but now we wanna know what do we need to do to get to X million or to hit this minimum objective of ours. So we were able to really work together with them to look at what are the different levers in that marketing plan that could be moved in order for them to reach that objective. And I think that was really kind of critical in them making decisions on which brewers could you eventually reach, how much spend were you gonna have to put, was it realistic, and then also, again, not only looking at it by the individual brewers, by looking at it always with that whole portfolio lens.
We're speeding through this. So last but not least, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about our penetration piece. So as Lee mentioned, we sort of flipped the tables a little bit on the support optimization side, and we were able to really hit those. So we were able to say, what if we need to get to X% from a sales perspective as well as from a household penetration, and Nielsen was able to do both of those for us. So whether we liked some of the answers or not, I think it gave us helpful insight into where we should be, where we would be most productive in terms of our energy and spend. But the penetration piece was really key because this was something that I think we were hoping for all along. We were optimistic that Nielsen could help us, but this was something that definitely is not part of the core set of solutions. So, based on providing, we provided our sales data as many companies do for forecasting, but on top of it, we have household penetration trend data over time that we provided to Nielsen, and then we were able to establish a relationship between how sales and penetration have evolved in order to then link, as we say, a new package or a new unit is going to be sold based on the forecasting. How does that, is that coming from a new household or is it coming from a replacement household who is maybe just looking to trade up or replace the brewer that they might have had for 5 to 7 years? So that was super powerful for us because we were really able to say, over time we expect to do this many brewers and we could do our sales planning, but we could also expect to see new users into the system enjoying our coffee and buying our pods as well. So, what did we do with all the information? So we had that long list of objectives, and we successfully achieved all of them. So we were able to improve our products for success. So with that concept piece, We were able to really drill into every single innovation and say what's working, what's not working, what do I need to fix, where should I kind of optimize positioning or naming in order to really stick. We were also able to refine some of our portfolio change sequencing. So we had a pretty good idea of when we thought certain innovations might launch over the next 2 to 3 years. And with that, there was also some delisting of current brewers. And we did a little bit of finessing with that based on the simulation tool that we got from the line and price optimization. We were also able to adjust pricing. So again, from that line and price optimization, we were able to actually run scenarios that said, when we tested this brewer, we thought it was going to be at $159. Now maybe it might be $169 because we really want to put in that extra piece that's going to make the coffee awesome. So we got to play with that a little bit and refine some of our estimates there. We were able to optimize our launch support plan. So out of sort of the 2 options that we provided, we were able to really establish which one was going to drive better sales for us overall and do more for our brand. And even though, we couldn't necessarily hit some of the targets that we really, really were setting out to, we were able to get pretty close. We were able to drive additional household penetration, so we knew which brewers were going to be the most successful among non-owners. So we were able to sort of see that trending upward over time, which we are tracking by the day. And we were able to quantify improved profitability. So as I mentioned, we were hoping to improve some of our sales and profitability over time with these new launches. And then finally, so now that we've sort of gone through the hard work of establishing this system and this toolkit that provides us all this value from different lenses, power in each individual solution as well as power, exponentially together, we have a system now that we can call on when we want to retest as our innovation pipeline evolves. So establishing a cadence where we can do this over time is important for us. So thank you so much for listening.
We did speed through that.
That was fast. Any questions?
How long did the process take from start to finish?
Probably, I think we started maybe in July-ish, and we delivered probably right about before the holidays. So we took, the beginning piece was, I think, probably a bit more of the upfront work was where we really, it's garbage in, garbage out. So we took our time a little bit there to make sure we did it right. But then, exploration isn't always the quickest thing too. But we were pleased in the end.
So the forecasting that you did for figuring out like how much volume you were going to get, was that only on your machines or was it on your consumables as well?
For this, it was only on our machines. So, yep. Okay, thanks everybody.